Picture a woman sitting on the cold bathroom floor at 2 in the morning. The world outside is silent, but inside her, everything is screaming. She holds her phone like she's holding the last piece of her dignity. No one replied. Again. And for the 1,000th time, she thinks, maybe I'm really not enough. You don't know this woman, but maybe you are this woman. On the outside, she seems to have it together. Work, home, practiced smiles, automatic answers. But inside, every step feels like walking through a minefield. Small rejections feel like emotional earthquakes. Ignored invitations become silent proof that she's invisible. And the loneliness, the one no one sees, builds up in the corners of her soul like emotional dust no one helps her clean. The world calls it being dramatic. She calls it reality. She's not weak, never was. In fact, she carries more than anyone realizes. But the problem is, no one asks, no one sees, no one stays. And in the silence of yet another night when everything goes dark, she feels like she's failing herself. But there's something no one has told her yet. There's a kind of strength that only rises from rock bottom. And that's what this video is about. Because the heartbreak she feels right now will become her compass. The failure that shattered her plans will become her foundation. And the loneliness she hates will become the sacred space where she finds herself. But before the strength comes the fall. And we need to look at that honestly. She's had days when she cried on the bus, hiding behind her sunglasses. She's held back tears in the bathroom at work. She's pretended to be fine so no one would worry. She's spent sleepless nights asking herself where she went wrong. She's been compared, dismissed, overlooked. And still, she got up the next day. That's not weakness, that's silent emotional endurance. But there comes a moment when even the strongest woman breaks. And when she breaks, no one notices. Because she's learned to break quietly, to fall in silence, to smile with her face and scream with her body. One of those days, she looked in the mirror and didn't recognize herself. Who is this tired version of me, she thought. The reflection held no sparkle, no lightness, just exhaustion, tired of trying to please, tired of carrying everyone else, tired of putting herself last, tired of not being the priority in her own life. That was the start of the silent rupture. There was no yelling, no drama, no one noticed. But something inside her shut down. Hope turned into silence. Desire faded into numbness. The inner light that once helped her dream, plan, smile for real, just flickered out. And in that emptiness, she started to believe it might be true. Maybe she really was a walking mistake. Maybe she wasn't meant to be loved. Maybe she had nothing special. Maybe no one would ever stay. Maybe failure was the end of the story. But here's the detail that changes everything. Every woman who's reached rock bottom carries, unknowingly, the seed of new strength. Because there's a part of the soul that only awakens when everything breaks. A strength that sleeps inside pain. A version of her that only comes alive when the old one can't keep going. Do you feel that too? If you're watching this hoping for answers, know this. You don't need answers right now. You need space. Space to feel. To stop judging yourself. To breathe for the first time without pretending you're okay. This video isn't about becoming the perfect woman. It's about becoming the real one. The one who stops carrying the world on her back and starts rebuilding her own center. Because this woman, the one you're about to meet inside yourself, wasn't born from victory. She was born from chaos. And what will she do with that chaos? She'll build a new emotional home. She'll learn to listen to herself. She'll stop asking for permission to be who she is. She'll use heartbreak as her compass, failure as her fertile ground, and loneliness as a ritual of reconnection. But before that, she needs one thing: permission to start again. Even if she's scared, even if she's tired, even if she doesn't know how. And if you're still here, listening to this, maybe this is your moment too. Pause. Breathe. Let this land. You are not broken. You are under construction. The woman you want to be lives inside the tired woman you are today, and she's trying to be born. Through the pain, through the silence, through the exhaustion. She's trying to be born through you. If this touched something in your heart, stay with me until the end of this video. I promise, you won't leave the same. Before we continue, take a second to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Because here, every video is an emotional mirror, and you deserve to see yourself with more truth. She woke up different that morning, not because the pain had disappeared, but because, for the first time in a long time, she didn't try to run from it. Sitting on the edge of the bed, with her feet still touching the cold floor, she took a deep breath. And instead of rushing to fix the world outside, she did something simple but radical. She stayed there, with herself, with the mess, with the silence, with her broken heart. That was the moment the reconnection began. There was no miracle, no answer falling from the sky. But she understood one thing. If she wanted to leave that cycle, she had to stop running from herself. She grabbed a forgotten notebook from the drawer and scribbled something. At first, just scattered words, disconnected phrases. But then, like a faucet opening, everything started to pour out. Anger, old wounds, feelings she never dared to say out loud, fears buried under the carpet of routine, and in the middle of it all, a whisper. I just wanted to be truly loved. That sentence hurt, but it also set her free. Because there, emotionally naked in front of the page, she saw the girl she once was. The one who dreamed, who believed, who hoped to be chosen. And she realized she spent so much time trying to be strong. She forgot to be human. That's where the first step of rebuilding begins, validating your own pain. Imagine her sitting on a deserted beach, the ocean ahead, wind on her face, and in her hands, a mirror. Not just any mirror, one that doesn't show her face, but the truths she hides. She looks, sees her insecurities, her trauma, her self-sabotage, but she also sees something else, a spark, a sleeping courage, a woman who still believes it's possible to start over. That's the symbolic moment of change. Because she understands, no one is coming to save her. And that's not a tragedy, it's a call to power. So she starts small. One gesture a day. On the first day, she deletes the app that made her compare herself to other women. On the second, she plays a song that makes her cry and lets herself feel it all. On the third, she walks alone to that cafe she always feared going to without company. On the fourth, she writes a letter she'll never send, but needed to get out. On the fifth, she looks in the mirror and says for the first time, I'm trying, and that already means a lot. These small actions are like threads of light entering through emotional cracks. It's not full strength yet, but it's life returning. And each of those moments holds something sacred. Intention. She doesn't want to live on autopilot anymore. She doesn't want to smile just to please. She doesn't want to swallow her tears to seem mature. She wants truth, even if it hurts, even if it's slow, even if it's scary. She now understands that loneliness isn't the absence of people, it's the absence of connection with yourself. So she starts creating moments of presence. She learns to make her coffee like a ritual. She feels the smell, the texture, the warmth between her hands. She looks out the window at the trees as if it were the first time. She places her hand on her heart before going to sleep, and she asks, "What do you need today?" And the answer comes, sometimes in words, sometimes in tears, sometimes in silence. But it comes. In that intimate space, she starts becoming her own reference. She stops seeking external validation. She stops trying to be the right woman for others and starts discovering the true woman inside her. That woman is not perfect. She still makes mistakes, still blames herself, still has hard days. But now, she no longer abandons herself. She understands that reconnecting with herself isn't an event, it's a process. And in that process, every small choice matters. When she sets boundaries, when she says no with respect, when she chooses silence instead of forced explanations, when she walks away from places where love isn't mutual, all of it is silent revolution. It's her telling the universe, I won't beg for emotional crumbs anymore. I choose myself. And when a woman chooses herself, everything around her begins to change. She might still be rejected, ignored, underestimated, but now that doesn't shake her roots, because her roots are within her, strong, nourished, alive. She no longer needs to prove anything or chase people who don't see her, because she's finally starting to see herself. And if you're still here, maybe you're at that same place. Maybe today is the day for your first symbolic step. Close your eyes for 2 minutes. Take a deep breath. Say your name out loud. Write a letter to your 8-year-old self, or simply allow yourself to rest without guilt. The step doesn't need to be big. It only needs to be honest, because it's truth, not perfection, that will set you free. Every true transformation begins where the illusion ends. She used to think she needed to be accepted by everyone, loved by someone, validated from the outside. But now she's starting to see the love she was searching for was hers to give to herself. And that changes everything. Not like magic, but slowly, like puzzle pieces finally falling into place. She begins to practice what no one ever taught her: self-compassion. Instead of judging herself for feeling sad, she asks, what is this sadness trying to tell me? Instead of punishing herself for trusting too much, she says, you did the best you could with what you knew. And instead of self-sabotage, she writes, today I choose myself, even if I'm scared, even if I'm imperfect. She discovers journaling, not as a task, but as a mirror. There, on the page, she finds herself. She starts to understand her patterns, her triggers, her deepest desires. She learns that not every pain needs fixing. Some just need to be heard. She writes letters to herself, like the friend she always wished she had. Dear me, I know you're tired, but you're stronger than you think. I'm here, and I'm not leaving. These letters become emotional anchors, safe spaces on hard days. And little by little she realizes she is no longer alone inside herself. The second step of the process is learning how to set boundaries, not as walls of rejection, but as bridges of protection. She realizes that every time she said yes when she wanted to say no, a piece of her dimmed. Now, every no she says with clarity is an act of self-love. She learns to leave without explaining, to step out of conversations that hurt, to end cycles with dignity. She understands that a boundary doesn't push love away. It protects space for real love to grow. Her new self starts to emerge in small daily decisions. Going to bed early, even when the world tells her to hustle. Eating slowly, tasting each bite as an act of presence. Unfollowing accounts that make her feel small. Speaking kindly to herself in the mirror. She begins using affirmations, not as empty phrases, but as mantras for inner rebuilding. I am enough exactly as I am. My pain has meaning. My story matters. I deserve real love without shrinking myself. At first, her voice shakes. It doesn't feel real. But over time, the words take root, and what was once repetition becomes belief. Belief becomes posture. Posture becomes identity. She no longer walks the way she used to. There's something new in her steps, even on the hard days. A quieter inner world, a steadier gaze, a courage that doesn't shout, but stays. Where she once waited to be chosen, now she chooses herself every day. Where she once looked for signs of love in others, now she gives herself that love in her rituals. Because she understands that the safest love is the one she builds inside. And in this process, she starts to remember the woman she's always been. The woman who dreamed big, who felt deeply, who saw beauty even in pain. She no longer wants to shrink to fit into tight spaces, no longer wants to soften her voice to please people who don't listen, no longer wants to apologize for feeling intensely. She is learning to exist fully. And in this new way of being, the world shifts. Some people walk away, others draw near, but she no longer bends out of fear of being alone, because now her own presence is the safest place she can be. Maybe you, listening to this, are going through the same process. Maybe you're shedding an old version of yourself, and it's scary. But know this, it's not the end. It's a rebirth in motion. Old patterns break. Past identities resist. Doubts rise. But that's not failure. That's how something real begins. You don't have to be fully ready. You just have to be willing. Willing to look at yourself with more kindness, to listen with more patience, to allow yourself to fall, to feel, to start again. Transformation has no set date, no perfect form, but it does have a direction. And every time you honor your pain, your truth, your process, you are moving forward, even if it feels slow, even if no one sees. This woman being born through you will surprise you, not because she's perfect, but because she's becoming whole. Now tell me, do you feel something inside you shifting too? If yes, drop a comment below. I'm in the process. Let's build this space of truth and healing together. She didn't become someone else. She simply returned to who she was before the world told her to hide. This new woman isn't made of certainty or perfect formulas. She's made of layers, of scars that tell stories, of silences that are now respected, and of a strength that no longer needs to shout to be felt. She still makes mistakes, but she doesn't hate herself for them anymore. She still feels everything deeply, but she's no longer ashamed of her sensitivity. She's still intense, but now she knows intensity isn't a flaw, it's presence. She stopped editing herself and started expressing herself. This woman isn't the ideal version others expected. She's the real version that was born the moment she stopped trying to please. She moves more slowly, but more completely. She speaks less, but with more truth. She allows herself to cry and still feels strong, because now she understands vulnerability is power. Her rebirth wasn't a moment of glory. It was a series of quiet days where she chose not to abandon herself. Days when she was tired, but gave herself comfort. Days when she was scared, but stayed true to herself. Days when she was rejected, but kept loving who she was. She built her new self from the pieces of her old one. She didn't throw away her pain. She turned every wound into foundation. Heartbreak became discernment. Failure became humility. Loneliness became root. And now she looks back not with shame, but with reverence. Because every fall was a lever. Every silence, an invitation. Every ending, a new beginning. The woman who now exists was born in pain, but she grew in self-love. And that's why she no longer fits into lukewarm relationships, empty rooms, or promises without action. She requires presence, authenticity, real connection. Not out of arrogance, but because she knows who she is. She looks in the mirror and sees more than a face. She sees story. She sees resilience. She sees beauty without filters. And maybe, while watching this video, you feel that woman waking up inside you too. Maybe you're still afraid, and that's okay. Maybe you feel fragile. That's strength too. Maybe you don't know where to start. But just being here is a beginning. You don't need to see the whole path. You only need to take the next step. And sometimes that step is simple. Close your eyes and be grateful you're still here. Write your own story, even if no one reads it. Say enough to what hurts you. Make space to hear yourself. Accept that you deserve more, without having to explain it. The new woman being born in you doesn't have to be perfect. She just has to be yours. Picture this scene. She walks alone down the street. The sky is gray, but inside her there is light. She's not smiling to appear okay. She's smiling because she feels alive. She no longer waits for permission. She's created her own place. And with every step, there's one truth. She will never abandon herself again. This is the woman you can become. Not because you have something to prove, but because you are finally ready to live as you truly are. If this touched something in you, if this journey made something inside you wake up, then maybe this is your moment. The moment to say, I'm done just surviving. I want to live. The moment to look inward with respect. The moment to stop postponing your truth. If you felt all of this, then you are already ready. Ready to step out of emotional hiding and into the light of your own consciousness. Ready to trade fear for presence. Ready to love yourself with the same power you've always given to others. And before you go, take a deep breath. Feel this. You don't have to go back to who you were, because who you are becoming is even more beautiful, even more true, even more yours. This is your time, woman. So do this for yourself now. Subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and comment below. I've been reborn. And if this video made sense to you, click on the one appearing on your screen right now. It's the next step in your journey. It will guide you even deeper into your reunion with yourself. I'll see you there.